to Extra Point. This is the podcast of Crosspoint Baptist Church. And today we have a special guest, one of my favorite people in the world. I definitely can say she's my favorite daughter. So, Kelsey, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. Looking forward to this podcast. We're actually going to talk about your kids and kind of your life since you've had kids. And so most of you know that Kelsey and Michael have two adorable children, Sophia, who's 5, and Joel, who's like 6 months now. And both of them have a genetic condition called myotonic dystrophy. Not muscular dystrophy, but myotonic dystrophy. So, Kelsey, can you tell us a little bit about what myo is and how it is seen in your kids?
Yeah, so myotonic dystrophy is a disease with overall muscle weakness. It's the inability to relax muscles at will. So it's caused by a repeated genetic code. It's as if one of their genes got stuck in a copy machine and it just printed that same gene over and over and over again. So both Joel and Sophia have 1,100 repeats. It's interesting because the effects of it are so different. So, for example, Joel is able to use his hands and his voice a lot more than Sophia did when she was 6 months old. But Sophia has never needed oxygen, and Joel does. Or Sophia, at his age, had 16 different specialty departments, and Joel only had 4. So he has a lot less going on than Sophia did, but she never had any physical injuries. When Joel was born, he had a terrible wound on his hand. He actually had a blood clot that was formed because his arm was stuck under his leg. And so there's a lot of differences in how myo impacts our kids, but those are some of the main ones for our kids.
And one of the things that happens too is that they don't move around much in the womb, right? And so that's where some of the developmental struggles come. Like, for example, Sophia also had a need of a kidney transplant. The kidney was bad, and so yeah, it definitely is different with different kids. Now I know that all of us, our whole family, struggled emotionally, especially when Sophia was born. Also when Joel was born, but for Sophia because it was just so shocking. Can you talk about how you felt and how that went from your perspective?
Yeah. So before answering that question directly, it's kind of important that you know what happened before she was born. So in the last 6 weeks of my pregnancy, we learned that there was something different with Sophia, but no one could tell us exactly what it was. All they said was that she'd most likely be stillborn. So there were a mix of emotions when I finally saw her. I was definitely overwhelmed, but there was also this sense of relief because for so long we had been told that she wasn't going to make it. And so I remember looking at her for the first time and just saying, "You did it, you made it, you're here, I can't believe it." But as time went on, I struggled a lot. There's a lot that I had to grieve. I remember crying in the bathroom because I realized that she would never play soccer, and I don't even really like soccer. But it was just kind of the realization that there were a lot of things that Michael and I expected and thought would happen, and a lot of things that we did growing up that our kids may never get to do. And spiritually, I had a lot of really hard conversations with God. I think I was confused as to why God would allow my kids to be disabled when I had been faithfully following him all my life. And so I don't think I was angry initially, but I definitely had moments where I was. I never doubted his existence, but I definitely questioned his goodness. And so that's kind of what it was like for me. What was it like for you? I know Sophia's situation was hard for you too.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably the most challenging time in my whole life. And I remember when Sophia was born, COVID hadn't quite started yet. She was born in January, and by March of that year, we were not able to go to the hospital anymore. But we would get regular phone calls from you guys, and something else had happened with her, and it was usually bad. And my mom and I drove so many times to OHSU thinking that we're going to lose that. They're going to lose. We're going to lose too, that baby. and this is hard. And then I remember, I started studying quite a bit, just reminding myself of all the prayer promises of the Bible, and I just felt like a little bit like you, like for example, in John 15, it says, Jesus says, if you abide in me and I abide in you, you can ask whatever you want and it will be done for you. And there's so many verses like that. And, we kept asking and pleading and begging God to change the situation, and he never did. And then, church was especially rough too, because that's right about the time we were singing a lot of songs that seemed to be related to having hardship and trials and difficulties, and I couldn't sing them. I'd start and I'd have to stop. And so I share this with my life group. When we were going through it, we were at the time meeting at a home group, and I don't think I doubted God, but like you, I was confused and I was hurt, and I was just struggling like emotionally every day. And I realized at some point that I probably was depressed. It was just really, really hard on me. I'm thankful that God brought, me and all of us through that time. And like you now, I realize that God's sovereign. He's in control of everything. He's good. He's all-knowing. He's done some things just in Sophia's life that are really miraculous, and our answers to prayer and stuff. And so it's better now, but it was really, really hard those first 6 weeks.
Yeah, and I think we all knew that
6
about
months,
God.
not 6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 months until she got home.
Right. I think we all knew that about God, but it was expressed or experienced in a different way.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember too how early on at one of her care conferences, the doctor was explaining what it would look like for her to come home, and you guys were living in a 1-bedroom apartment. And I realized there's no way even the medical equipment is going to fit in that apartment. So that's when Mom and I just felt like we should have you come and stay with us. We're empty nesters, but not for very long. And I used to tell you, all the kids, I tell them, our job is to raise you and send you out of here. And so don't come back. Come back for dinner, but don't come back to live. But it was different because it wasn't so much you that was coming back. It was our granddaughter, right? Sophia, who needed the extra room and care and support. So I just kind of laugh about that because I think I told you that you had, by 25, you had to be out of the house. And so then you got married, right before that. So anyways. Yeah, what about, so people that know your story, and I know we have not only people listening from church, but from the Sophia Strong, and now it's Sophia and Joel Together page, right? Thousands of people follow that. Give them a little bit of idea, because so many people have been praying for you and think about you a lot. What, for you and Michael, like what is daily caring for two developmentally disabled children like for you? What's your kind of routine?
Yeah, it's a little different depending throughout the week. Michael is at work, so I get both the kids in the morning, and we don't have a lot of nursing, so it usually takes me about 2 hours in the morning to get them ready. Sophia has about 10 different medications, and Joel has 3, so I give them their medications, and I clean their different sites. So for the G-tube or for the trach, Michael usually is there to help me change their trach, but I'll clean their G-tube site, and then obviously they're kids, so if they throw up or if they have a diaper that needs to be changed, I do that too. But there's a lot of medical stuff outside of that too. So Joel has 4 different breathing treatments throughout the day that takes about a half an hour each. Sophia has specific medications for post-kidney transplant things. And then we have to clean up their supplies, and we have to get them ready for bed. So there's a whole hour or 2 of us making feeds and different things that we have to do. Everything's safe. And so, yeah, and then, we homeschool Sophia, and they have physical therapy and occupational therapy and speech for Sophia. And so we try and do those things every day as well. But we also have so many appointments, so many calls with insurance, so many calls with scheduling different appointments. I think this last week we had 5 appointments, and this week I think we have about the same amount. So day to day kind of changes just because we have different appointments, but typically we have a pretty planned out day from start to finish, trying to get them to do lifestyle things that will help their development, but also just doing basic things like feeding them and making sure that they're breathing and checking all their numbers and their blood pressure and their weight and all those different things.
Yeah, so that's a lot every day. And so this is kind of related in some ways, but what do you think has been the hardest part as a parent? And then what are some of the more enjoyable parts?
Yeah, I really love being a medical mom. I think it's definitely hard. It's not what I expected at all by any means. But I actually really love that I know how to take care of my kids. So I don't think, even though it is a lot, I don't think that part has been hard. I think the hardest part, there's kind of two that come to mind. The first one is our kids have had a lot of surgeries. Sophia's had, I think, 16 at this point. She's had 16 in the last 5 years, and Joel has had 3, if I'm counting correct. Seeing your kids have surgery and then seeing them come back from surgery and just be so tired and in so much pain and not being able to do anything for them, that is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to watch. Knowing that they're in so much pain and I can't do anything to help them is really hard. The second thing that comes to mind is it's hard to see what other kids are doing and know that my kids may never get to do those things. So we try to focus on the incredible things that they're doing right now. It's hard not to go too far in the future. Sophia's really smart, so she may get to go to college, but typically when you have a kid, you're like, someday when they get married or whatever, or when they go to college, and knowing that our kids may not get to do that and they may not get to have kids of their own, so we wouldn't get to be grandparents. Some of that is really hard to think about, but we try not to get too far ahead of ourselves just because we want to enjoy the moments and the fun that we're having now. Is there something for you as a grandparent that's been hard?
I just think being part of it every day and watching it, like, it's so good, right? But it's also the same thing, right? Like we'll have some of your friends will come over and they'll have kids the same age and they're running all over the house. And of course, we're kind of glad that they're not running all over the house, but
Yeah.
and just realizing that they're needy and they require a lot of care, but also they're great, right? And that's the thing. The other part of that question was not only what's been hard, but what's kind of been the best or the most enjoyable part of raising those two.
Yeah, they're really great kids. We got really blessed with silly, funny, good, cheerful kids who are just really fun. And so some of my favorite moments are we'll have worship family night, or I was talking earlier about Sophie and I had a dance party this morning to some worship songs and getting to teach the Bible to my kids. Sophia loves books, and so getting to read to her is and teaching her about Jesus is really fun. We also have kind of a nightly routine with you and Mom, where we watch a TV show together, and that's a really fun time for us because we just let the kids play with the grandparents. So we get to sit back a little bit and watch your relationship, and we all laugh together and eat dinner together, and those are definitely some of my favorite moments, are just those casual nights at home where we all get to be together.
Yeah, it was great this morning when Michael and I were coming over for men's breakfast, and we brought Joel for the first time, and Sophia was awake, and I could just tell from the way she was acting and looking that she thought it was church day. She thought it was Sunday.
Yeah.
Because she was doing her little sign for, go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Yeah.
And I tried to explain to her that, hey, it's Saturday, Sophia, it's not Sunday. It's just your dad and I are going to church. You're staying here. and she never got it, but she probably understands now. Is I'm still away from home, and,
Yeah.
and Michael just got back. So one of the things that I mean, looking back, especially with Sophia, it hasn't been as much with Joel, but it was so shocking for everyone, like in the whole church. I think it was shocking, and one of the things we talk about a lot is that a lot of people feel like they have to say something, right? Because it's just awkward to not say anything. So people want to be helpful, and then they say some things, and then a lot of times they're not the right things to say. So what do you think about? What are some examples that you can think of? Because I think there's probably people listening to this that um, either have disabled kids or they know people with disabled children, and so it's just really good, I think, to know how to talk about that. So
Yeah.
what would you say to that?
Yeah, it's been interesting for sure. I know that a lot of good people do have good intentions, um, but oftentimes what we've seen is people will take scripture out of context or they'll misquote scripture entirely. So the one we've heard the most is God won't give you more than you can handle. That's actually not in the Bible.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a misquote. The sentiment comes from 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13. But verse 13 says, "He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear." And so it's about temptation, not about hard situations. And we get that a lot. We actually, in the beginning, didn't really correct people. And then we had just heard it so many times that, it became hurtful because when you say something that's not true to someone, for example, I have 2 disabled kids, that's a lot more than I can handle. Um, so when people would say that, it would be like, that's actually kind of hurtful to me because it feels like more than I can handle. It is more than I can handle. And in fact, Jesus promises us the opposite. In John 16, Jesus says, "In this world we will have trouble, but take heart, for I've overcome the world." And so he actually promises us that things are going to be a little too much. Things are going to be difficult. And it can be difficult for a long time. Also, if you look at any character in the Bible, um, it's a lot more than what they could have handled too. I think the important distinction to make is that God doesn't give us more than he can handle, but he definitely gives us a lot more than we can handle. And so people would say that a lot, and they would also quote, I don't know what passages, but by his wounds we
Right.
are healed. And that's not about my kids with disabilities being healed. It's about us being healed from sin. Or they would quote Philippians 4:13, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And all of these things are true, but they are not in context. And when you take verses out of context, you can kind of twist them to be what you want them to be, and that's actually not helpful. If you would actually quote scripture in context, it's a lot more encouraging than trying to encourage us with things that aren't true or aren't in context.
I was thinking about how, Job, when he had his terrible life, when he lost all his possessions and all his kids, and the first part of Job was great because his friends just sat with him and they were just there. And then the book turns bad, I guess, in a way, when those three think that they need to talk and need to tell him what's wrong with him, and how it's really a fascinating book, and I think it relates to how we deal with families that have disabilities with themselves or with their kids. Um, Kelsey, this wasn't in our notes, but I just wanted to tell people that are listening that a lot of people don't know, but you went to seminary and you have a Master of Divinity degree, and your plan was to be a chaplain. And what we've marveled at ever since your kids have been born is that you have been a chaplain. You're not getting paid for it, but it's amazing the times I've seen you at the hospital praying with people that you just met on the elevator, or going over to just sit with someone, or taking gifts to someone. And so I just want to just kind of affirm that God's working out his calling in your life and using that calling and your education to help other people. And I remember the time that Michael and I went and got Sophia's bed. A family had their son die, and they wanted to make sure that somebody else with a disabled kid got the bed for free. And as Michael and I were hauling as a big bed, all the parts, out of their apartment, um, Michael could just tell, and I could see it too, that this was like the last little bit of their son that was leaving their house. And I just love how he he said to them, "Hey, can we just pray for you?" And these people that we didn't even know, right? Who I don't think were Christians. I mean, they might have been, but I don't want to judge them. But I don't. There's no reason to think that they were. Said, yeah, and Michael just prayed, for them, and thanked God for them, and pray that God would help them in their pain and stuff. So I just want to share that because I think a lot of times people don't know kind of your background with education and calling and ministry, and how God's kind of used all that to shape you. And your husband is in seminary now too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool.
I have a little story. We had an assignment my last semester where we had to spend a day, essentially 4 hours or more than that, just kind of reflecting and praying and spending time alone with God. So I had escaped to the river and spent most of my day there praying and walking around and asking God what the next step was for us. I didn't know at that point that I was pregnant with Sophia. And during that time with the Lord, I really felt like He was saying, it's time for you to start writing. And I was like, I don't have anything to write about. Why would people listen or read what I've written? And then 9 months later, Sophia came, and I was able to write about what God was teaching us on Caring Bridge. And that's how Sophia Strong, our Facebook page, got started. And so it's really cool that God had in advance had plans for Sophia's life and had laid that on our hearts, and getting to use our education and the gifts that God has given us has been a blessing for sure.
What would you say as people think about specifics? Like, how can people help your family, and how can they pray for you? What would be some suggestions you have?
Yeah, I mean, our church has been really great. It's been super encouraging to get different messages and know that people all over the world really are praying for us. It's been really, really sweet. People have met a lot of basic needs as far as giving us gift cards to gas stations, or bringing us dinner, or sending us an encouraging text. All of those things are greatly appreciated. I think the main thing that helps is when people pray with us and not just pray for us. Sometimes when you're grieving, it's really hard to know what to pray. And so it's been encouraging when people will send us a text of ways that they're praying for us. Speaking of prayer, some things that are coming up in our life and our story. Joel has some issues that we're waiting to see some test results regarding having extra fluid in his brain, much like his sister. So if you want to pray for Joel in some of those upcoming appointments and tests, pray that he doesn't need surgery. Also, just pray for overall health. Sophia's doing really great. She is almost a year out from transplant, and she's doing great. But overall health and energy and nursing just are some of the ones that come to mind.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. So as we kind of wrap it up, anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to share?
I don't know that there is. I do want to thank everyone for following our journey and for praying for us and encouraging us. It takes a village, and we feel those prayers and we covet those prayers, and we're just so thankful for the community that God has blessed us with.
Yeah, well, we're thankful for you guys too. I remember, of course, I'm your dad. I would say that, but even if I wasn't, I would be saying that. During COVID, like a lot of churches, we lost a lot of people, and we sent a church plant out right after that. And so, our church kind of dropped to about half of what we used to be. And I remember talking. We were outside. Actually, it was a COVID type service. We were outside, and we decided to invite people to come 1 week just in their cars, and we did a service mainly just speaking because we didn't want to blast out the neighbors with music, but I was just sharing about some things, and then a lady came up to me from our church afterwards, and because I was talking about the church being united, and she said, one of the things that united our church more than anything is Sophia. And I thought, wow, that's powerful, right? Because so many people in the church are aware. You can't not be aware, right? You guys sit up in the front row with us, and so they just come, right down the aisle and make themselves at home. And so I just think it's been good what God's done. It's going to be great moving forward, and we appreciate everybody's love and prayers and concern. And then also, if people want to find Joel and Sophia on social media, how do they do that?
I think if you just type in the search bar, our name changed from Sophia Strong, so we are now, let me double check before I tell you the wrong thing. If you search Joel and Sophia Stronger Together, you should see a picture of my super cute kids as the profile picture, and that's where we try and keep people most updated with appointments, appointment news, or different things that are happening in our life. So.
And it's Facebook and Instagram, right?
Facebook and Instagram.
That's good. All right. That's good. Well, listen, I appreciate, Kelsey, having this talk with you. We have a lot of talks like this, but to be able to share it with people that are listening is a privilege. And, this is Easter's coming up. So when this goes out, it'll be just a few days before Easter. So I want to see if you're ready for this, okay? You ready, Kelsey?
I'm ready.
He is risen.
He is risen indeed.
All right. Thank you guys for listening.